Hello and welcome to the Banker's Top 1000 World Banks Ranking 2022. I'm Joy Macknight, editor of The Banker. After our data analysts on the Banker database have crunched the numbers, the headline result is that it has been a stellar year for the global banking industry. The aggregate Tier 1 capital of the world's 1,000 biggest banks surpassed $10 trillion for the first time in the history of the ranking, demonstrating that the global banking system is better capitalized than ever before. In addition, aggregate total assets have broken the $150 trillion barrier for the first time. Profits saw a healthy rebound, with aggregate pre-tax profits reaching a record-breaking $1.44 trillion. This is a 53.7% year-on-year increase, so a record-breaking year on many fronts. But let's talk about Latin America. With me in the studio is Barbara Pianese, who is our new LATAM editor. Barbara, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Joy. Thanks for having me.
So can you tell me a little bit about how the banks fared in Latin America in 2021, which is the results that the Banker's Top 1000 World Bankers Ranking is based on?
Yeah, sure. So 2021 was a year of rebound for economies in Latin America. And of course, that was after a pretty bleak 2020. So regionally, GDP grew 7%, which is not bad. But we also have to take into account the contraction that we had the year prior. So if we then look at the banking system, and we specifically look at the major banking countries, so Mexico, Brazil, and Colombia, we see that most countries in the region have increased their metrics. So they have increased their Tier 1 capital, they have increased their asset quality, and there was also a big jump in pre-tax profits. So in many cases, those banks resumed to their pre-pandemic levels. So I would say that was a picture of resilience, and the banks are also well provisioned from both 2020 and 2021.
Okay, and when we're looking at this year's 2022 ranking, how did the banks fare in the ranking itself?
So if you look at the ranking, and I would just specifically focus on the top 25 ranking, so Brazil still dominates the ranking with 8 banks, and the 4 biggest banks by tier capital in Latin America are Brazilian. And then we have Mexican Banorte and Bancolombia, which is from Colombia. So in terms of the top 25 ranking, there are no really surprise. We still have the same banks, so there was no big change. But I think one thing that really surprised me was the fact that there was a new bank, so Banco Inter, which is a Brazilian digital bank that enters the top 25 ranking. And that was because it had a big jump, a massive jump in Tier 1 capital, almost 140%. And not only is featured in the top 25, but it is also one of the bank lender that grew most its Tier 1 capital globally. So it's a pretty big achievement. And if we still remain in Brazil, we have Banco BTG Pactual, which is mostly focused on investment banking services, which is for the 3rd year in a row the top performer.
Excellent. And what can we expect in the year that's evolving now? What do you think will happen for next year's ranking?
So, yeah, it's a good question, because as we know, we are all seeing 2022 is proving more challenging. So the macroeconomic environment is more uncertain. There is a war in Ukraine. We're seeing inflation and higher interest rates. So all these factors will have an impact on Latin America. But I think that according to analysts, banks are well capitalized and they have good provisions. So if it is true that they might be affected, but it is also true that probably even interest rates might kind of offset other negative challenges. Of course, we have elections in Brazil in later this year, which will be quite interesting to watch. And then in Mexico, another interesting development is the sale of Banamex, which is Mexican unit of Citigroup. So Citigroup announced its the sale earlier this year. So we will see if there are local banks ready to acquire Banamex. We will see a Mexican banking system that will be more locally owned next year. So we will see a change in the configuration.
Excellent.
Of the system. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara.
Thanks
for your insights. The Banker's Top 1000 World Banks has been setting the industry benchmark since 1970. The ranking identifies the top 1,000 biggest banks and is the definitive guide to identifying which banks are the strongest in the world based on more than 120 data points tracked in the Banker database year on year. We analyze results by country, region, and benchmark bank to bank, as well as run our best performing bank methodology to help identify a bank's strengths and weaknesses compared to its peers. To get access to our Top 1000 World Banks 2022 content and data, you can view our special offers by visiting thebanker.com/top1000 offers.